Okay, so in this video what we're going to do is we're going to go over the 3 questions that are at the bottom of the lesson sheet for this lesson. Okay, so if you want to get that lesson sheet out, you can read this question with me. It says find a possible formula. When it says possible formula, it means a polynomial like f of x equals, 7x to the 5th power minus 9x to the 4th, blah, blah, blah. Okay, that's what it means. It's asking you to find a polynomial that meets this criteria. Okay, it says find a possible formula for a 4th degree polynomial g. Okay, so if it's a 4th degree polynomial g, then it's going to be g of x equals something, we'll call it a, x to the 4th power. That's how it's going to start off. Okay, all right, so let's go back. It says, well, what do we know about this polynomial? It has double 0 at 2. When it says at 2, it means at x equals 2. And when it says double 0, it means that whenever that 2 is a 0 twice. That means that the factor that goes along with x equals 2, which is x minus 2, see, if we were to put a 2 in for x minus 2, 2 minus 2 equals 0. And it's a double 0, so the multiplicity is 2. So there's 2 of these. So there's an x minus 2 squared in this polynomial g of x. Now we don't know what the lead coefficient is here, so we're just going to put an a there, okay? It says also, here, let me clear out these notes up here. It says also that g of negative 3 equals 0. That means that if you were to plug in a negative 3, that the output would be 0. And that means that x plus 3 is a factor. So, because if we plug in a negative 3, putting in a negative 3 for x, negative 3 plus 3 equals 0, and therefore there's a factor x plus 3. So we have 2 factors that are x minus 2. We have a factor that's x plus 3, and then it says that g of positive 3 also equals 0. And that means that we have another factor that's x minus 3, okay? So it's a 4th degree polynomial. Well, look, here's 2 of the x's, here's a 3rd x, and here's a 4th x. So this actually is our answer, except for one thing. We don't know what the lead coefficient a is. And so it says, and also g of 0 is equal to negative 8. What that means is that if we were to plug 0 in for x, put a 0 here, put a 0 here, and put a 0 here, the answer, the output would be negative 8, okay? And so that's what we're going to do. We're actually going to use that fact to find out what a is. Now look at this hint. It says after finding the factors, which we just did, we found all the factors, you will need to find a fraction, a, that's right here, a, in the front that causes g of 0 to equal negative 8. So let's write this up. G of 0 equals a times, let's put a 0 in for x, minus 2 squared, times 0 plus 3, times 0 minus 3. All we're doing is putting 0 everywhere we see an x, we're putting in a 0. Why? Because g of 0, x is 0 here. And then it equals negative 8. Okay? So now let's work this out. G of 0 equals a times, whoops, that's it, not an a, 0 minus 2 is negative 2, so we'll put negative 2 squared. 0 plus 3 is just 3. 0 minus 3 is negative 3 equals negative 8. All right, so now let's continue the solution. G of 0 equals a, oops, I did it again, a. Now, negative 2 squared, negative 2 times negative 2 is 4. So this is going to be times 4, and then 3 times 3, and then times negative 3, times negative 3 equals negative 8. Okay, well, 4 times 3 is 12. 12 times negative 3 is negative 36. So what we have here is we wind up with negative 36a, because it's a times negative 36. That's equal to negative 8. Well, let's divide by negative 36 now. Divide by negative 36. This cancels over here, and we now have a equals. So I'm gonna kind of put this up here. A equals negative 8 divided by negative 36. Well, a negative divided by a negative is a positive, and 8 and 36 are both divisible by 4. So 8 divided by 4 is 2, so we're going to put a 2, and 36 divided by 4, that equals 9. So a is equal to 2/9. And so we figured it out. Our final answer is g of x is equal to 2/9 times x minus 2 squared times x plus 3 times x minus 3. And this would be our final answer. And now we could expand this so that it's in standard form, but putting it in factored form is acceptable. It's just fine. So that's our final answer. Let's go on to the next one. Okay, let's read this question. It says the polynomial of degree 5, which is called p of x. So we know that it's going to be p of x equals something, a times x to the 5th power. Okay, that's if it was in standard form. But let's back up. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. So the polynomial degree 5, p of x, it has a lead coefficient of 1. Oh, it's telling us that the lead coefficient is 1. So a is equal to 1. So we don't have to worry about finding a like we did in the last question. It says that it has roots with multiplicity of 2 at x equals negative 1. And that means that we automatically, if the root is x equals negative 1, the factor is x plus 1. And that one has a multiplicity of 2. So we'll put a square on that. And also at x equals 0. Well, what x do we have when it's x equals 0? Well, that's x minus 0. Well, what's x minus 0? Well, that's just x. So just x, which has a multiplicity of 2, that's x squared. So put x squared right here. And then there's a root with multiplicity of 1 at x equals 3. So that factor is going to be x minus 3. And that has a multiplicity of 1, which we don't have to put there. Okay. And it says find a possible formula for p of x. Well, we're actually done. This is our formula. So p of x is equal to x squared. That's a root of 0 with a multiplicity of 2. X plus 1 quantity squared, that has a 0 of negative 1 with a multiplicity of 2. And x minus 3, which has a root of 3 and a multiplicity of 1. So this is actually our final answer. That's actually our answer here. Now we could convert this into standard form, but it doesn't say that we have to convert it into standard form, so we're done. Let's move on to the last one. This one says the polynomial of degree 3, which is called p of x, has a root of multiplicity 2 at x equals 3. Okay, well, if the root is x equals 3, then the factor is x minus 3, and it has a multiplicity of 2, so it's x minus 3 squared. There's another root with multiplicity 1 at x equals negative 2. Well, the factor that goes with x equals negative 2 is x plus 2, and that has a multiplicity of 1. So we're almost done here because it's a third degree polynomial. And this is x squared, and this is x to the first. So this is mostly our answer. We're going to call it p of x. P of x. Now here's the problem, is that we don't know what a is. We don't know what the lead coefficient is. But it says that the y-intercept is supposed to be negative 7.2. and we got to find a formula for p of x. Now remember, when the y-intercept is negative 7.2, that means that the point 0, negative 7.2, is a point on this function. So what we can do is we can plug 0 in for x. We can put a 0 here, and a 0 here, and a 0 here, and then set it equal to negative 7.2, 7.2, and then solve for a. And that's what we're going to do. Now we do have a hint here. We don't have to use the hint, but it says after finding the formula from the roots, you will need to find a fraction a. That's exactly what we're about to do. We got to find a fraction a in front that causes the y-intercept to be negative 7.2. That's what we're trying to do. But they are telling us, it's very kind of them, to tell us that negative 7.2 is the same thing as negative 36 over 5. So maybe what we'll do is, maybe we'll replace this negative 7.2. Maybe it'll be a little bit easier because they told us that this is actually the same thing as negative 36 over 5. Okay? All right, so let's set this up. We'll say that p of x, or p of 0, is equal to a. So we've got to find a value of a. And then this x minus 3 squared, we know we got to put a 0 in for x. Minus 3 squared. Then x plus 2, well, we got to put a 0 in for x plus 2. And that the whole thing is going to be equal to, instead of negative 7.2, we're actually going to put in negative 36 over 5. Okay? So we're going to ignore this p of 0 just for a few minutes. So we're going to say a times, what's 0 minus 3? Well, that's negative 3. And we're squaring it. So squared times, what's 0 plus 2? Well, that's just 2. And this whole thing is going to be equal to negative 36, negative 36 over 5. Well, what's negative 3 squared? Well, negative 3 squared is negative 3 times negative 3. And a negative times a negative is a positive. And 3 times 3 is 9. So what we have here is a times 9 times 2 equals negative 36 over 5. Well, 9 times 2 is 18. Here, I'm going to move this over here so it's easier to work with. So how about 18a, because 18 is 9 times 2, equals negative 36 over 5. Now to make this a little bit easier, I'm going to cancel this denominator 5. How am I going to do that? Well, I'm going to multiply by 5. And over here, I'm also going to multiply by 5. Okay, so we're going to do 5 times 18a. Well, 5 times 18, you may need a calculator for this. But if you don't, what you're going to find is that 5 times 18 is actually 90. And we'll have 90a equals negative 36 over 5 times 5. All that does is cancel the denominator, and all we have left is negative 36. So we're going to have negative 36 over here. To solve for a, we're going to divide by 90 on both sides. And we're going to wind up with, this is going to cancel, and we're going to wind up with a equals negative 36 over 90. Now, I know that 36 and 90 are both divisible by 9. So we can divide the numerator by 9 and divide the denominator by 9. And we wind up with a is equal to negative 36 divided by 9 is 4. 90 divided by 9, that's 10. I'm not done, because I know that 4/10 can also be reduced. 4 is divisible by 2, and 10 is divisible by 2. And so what I wind up with is negative. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 10 divided by 2 is 5. So this is I finally found my a value. It's negative 2/5. And that allows me to write my formula for p of x, which is going to be, final answer, p of x equals negative 2/5 times, what do we got up here? Here it is, x minus 3 squared, x minus 3 squared times x plus 2, times x plus 2. That's my final answer. I'm all done. I hope this example helps you both with the lesson practice sheet and also with your homework.